What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you've had a fantastic day and that your weekend is off to a great start. I'm Dr. Krista Abbott, host of Inspire with Fire, and this is our special Christmas edition 24 Days to Christmas Countdown, where we are reading through one chapter in the book of Luke each and every day, started December 1st. So this will take us up to Christmas Eve. And the intention behind this is just to keep Jesus at the center of this busy holiday season. And because he is the reason for the season, right? He's the one that we're truly celebrating. So the purpose of this is just to keep him, his life, his ministry, and who he is, and the reason he came to earth in the first place at the forefront of what we're doing here during this season. And it is also my way of honoring my mother and father, who within the past 2 years, my mom transitioned to heaven in 2022, and my dad just this year in October, just a couple of months ago. And so this is my way of honoring them during the Christmas season. And yeah, so Merry Christmas. Here we are. It's time. We're on day 9. So it is time for us to hop into Luke chapter 9 so that we can go ahead and move through this today. And so as you guys come into the room, I see a few of you starting to come in now. As you come into the room, go ahead and drop a note into the comments and let me know you are here, because I am streaming to multiple locations. I've got a couple of Facebook pages, some private Facebook groups, as well as YouTube that we're streaming to. So people are coming in from all different platforms to be a part of this tonight. And so I can't see them all at one time unless you make a comment. So if you make a comment, go ahead, say hello, let me know you're here. If you do come back later and you're watching on the replay, then be sure to go to give me a comment with hashtag replay so I can come back and give you some comment loves. Hey, Rhonda Kate, good to see you in the room tonight. Happy you're here, my friend. Hope everything is going good for you. It's probably a lot colder where you are than it is here in Florida for me. So yeah, I had a nice relaxing Saturday sitting on the porch most of the day. I had one of those days. I may write about it later. I did a little bit of journaling, and there's some things I may just share out on social media in the next day or two. But I had one of those days where I just wanted to exist, not be a human doing, but be a human being, which is what we are created to be anyway, right? So I enjoyed my existence today, if you will. Let me take a sip of water real quick, and then we're going to hop on into Luke chapter 9. So, my hope in saying that is that you guys, during this busy holiday season, are able to carve out some time where you can be, where you can just be and exist as well. Hey, Kelly, so good to see you here. I'm glad we finally got you transitioned from a Facebook user into someone with a full name on my screen. So good to see you here tonight. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump into Luke 5. Hey, Aunt Barb, I see you rolling on up in here, skidding in on 2 wheels sideways. Oh, man, I love you so much. Thank you for being here. All right, give me just a second to queue up my screen here, and we are going to go ahead and get started. Oh, gotta always make sure I pick the right screen. Yay, I did it. All right, guys. Here we go. Luke chapter 9. Jesus sends out his apostles. Jesus summoned together his 12 apostles and imparted to them authority over every demon and the power to heal every disease. Then he commissioned them to proclaim God's kingdom and to heal the sick, to demonstrate that the kingdom had arrived. So the healing of the sick, the miracles, the signs, the wonders, the manifestations, all of those are demonstrations for the people that the kingdom has arrived. As he sent them out, he gave them these instructions. Take nothing extra on your journey. Just go as you are. Don't carry a staff, a backpack, food, money, not even a change of clothes. Whatever home welcomes you as a guest, remain there and make it your base of ministry. And wherever your ministry is rejected, you are to leave that town and shake the dust off your shoes as a testimony before them. The apostles departed and went into the villages with the wonderful news of God's kingdom, and they healed diseases wherever they went. Now, what's cool here, I'll scroll back up just a little bit, is Jesus, he sends them out, and this is the standout point to me, where he says, take nothing extra on your journey. Just go as you are. Don't carry a staff. Don't carry a backpack. Don't carry any food or money, not even a change of clothes. So he's basically sending them just as I am. He's sending them out just as they are. And wow, I don't know, that had to take a lot of faith, because I mean, I'll sometimes just be going to the next county over to visit my cousin, and I'll be taking an overnight bag with me just in case. Sometimes I keep a little extra change of clothes, a pillow, and a toothbrush. I keep all that stuff in my car all the time because I've been stranded before without it. So not stranded on the side of the road, but I won't get in that story and chase a bunny right now. But sometimes you go somewhere and unexpectedly you end up having to stay over. And if you don't got a toothbrush or a change of underwear or something like that, then it can be an uncomfortable situation. So, I learned from those surprise things like that happening in life to just kind of, keep a little Ziploc bag in the glove compartment with those essentials in it. You know what I mean? So there's a little tip for you if you don't already do it. Get you a gallon size Ziploc bag. Just put your little, emergency supplies in there. Change your underwear. Keep it in the glove box, and you always got it with you. But that's free tip. Free tip. I see y'all laughing at me. Don't be laughing at me. You know it's true. So, but they weren't able to. He's telling them not to take anything. And so essentially he's saying you've already got everything you need in here. And he had given them, he was saying that he was their strength, because a walking stick, y'all, I don't even walk around my block without my walking stick. But mainly that's because there's some dogs that, there's a little dog, one of them little purse dogs. He used to chase me around the neighborhood like he was a pit bull when I would go walking. So I had to get me a stick. Now, I never hit the dog, so y'all don't get scared and think I done abused the dog in the neighborhood. I didn't. But I felt like I needed it to protect me from this little Yorkie or whatever he was. He had a big bark, but he was not big as a minute, and he was not scared. Let me tell you what, I would try before I got my stick. I'll be like, "Ooh," I would like stomp at him and try and get him to run away, and he was not afraid. He would come harder. He would come harder at me, y'all. And I'm like, dang, this little dog, he's like, I'm like a gazillion times bigger than him. Anyway, chasing squirrels tonight. I'm sorry. But that's why y'all love me. So Jesus is saying, take nothing extra on your journey, not even an extra pair of underwear. Just go as you are. Don't carry anything. I'm your provision. I'm your protection. I'm your safety. I'm your strength, and I'm your righteousness. And why do I say righteousness? Because righteousness in the Bible is often represented by a cloak or by clothing. So he's saying, don't even take a change of clothes. He's saying, you don't need to take anything extra because I'm your righteousness. So they went and they started healing some people. Hey, Corey, good to see you here. Yep, faith was all they needed to take with them. Yep. I love you more. I love you the most, Descent Barb. Oh, yay! You figured it out, Kelly. I'm just so happy that y'all are here. Thank you for being here with me on a Saturday night, nonetheless. Usually, these Friday, Saturday, Sunday episodes, they end up with more replay people because, the weekend. But I'm glad y'all are here with me. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's get back to the Bible. All right. We already read all that. I'm not skipping it. All right. Herod was perplexed, though, y'all. Now, Herod, the governor, was confused and perplexed when he heard reports of all the miracles of Jesus and his apostles. Many were saying John the Baptizer has come back to life. Others said this is Elijah who has reappeared, or one of the prophets of old who has risen from the dead. These were the rumors circulating throughout the land. Herod, he was all up in his feels. Herod exclaimed, "Who is this man? I keep hearing about him over and over. It can't be the prophet John. I cut his head off." I had him beheaded, is what it actually says. But I bet Herod was actually saying, "I chopped his head off. It can't be him." So Herod was very eager to meet Jesus. He wanted to see for himself that it wasn't John back to life. Months later, okay, so a little bit of time has passed. The apostles have been out doing their thing. Jesus has been doing his thing. Herod's heard about it. He's wanting to know what's going on now. So months later, the apostles returned from their ministry tour and told Jesus all the wonders and miracles they had witnessed. Jesus, wanting to be alone with the 12, quietly slipped away with them toward Bethsaida. Crowds soon found out about it and took off after him. Y'all, they couldn't even leave the man alone for a few minutes to rest. When they caught up with Jesus, he graciously welcomed them, taught them more about God's kingdom, and healed all who were sick. So Jesus was really wanting some alone time, some quiet time. He wanted to be, like I said earlier at the start of the broadcast, for those of you who came in late, I shared that I had a day today where I just wanted to be. I didn't want to be a human doing, I wanted to be a human being. So I sat on the porch and I stared blankly at the trees, at the ladybugs, at the butterflies, at the birds. The wind was blowing. It's like 72 degrees outside. It was a perfect day. Perfect day. It was beautiful. And I just sat there like a zombie, just staring and being, existing. I almost fell asleep a couple times. That's how relaxing it was. That's all Jesus was wanting to do. He was wanting to go be a human being and not a human doing. But the people, they excited. They know they have needs. They want to be close to him. They want to be prayed for. They need healing. They want to learn from him and hear him teach. And so he graciously, the Bible says, even though he wanted to do all those things, he graciously welcomed them all and taught them more about God's kingdom. And then he had a prayer line. He prayed for all who were sick. It says all who were sick. Now, y'all, I'm going to tell you something. Jesus, he had a lot of people following him. I've been in some churches sometimes, and there might be, 3, 4, 500 people there. And Jesus had a lot more than that. And if everybody in the 3, 4, 500 people wanted to get prayed for and get healed, unless he did a mass like everybody's healed, boom, there it is. And he pulled a Benny Hinn on them. So take it. But if that had to take some time, is what I'm saying. That's my point. That had to take some time. Unless he did a mass healing, which is possible because he could do all sorts of things. But if he was ministering to them, even in like small groups with the number of people that followed him, that was some time. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, let's hop back over here. As the day wore on, the 12 came to Jesus and told him, "It's getting late." Yeah, see there? See, it did take some time. Now they've been doing this all day, and And the 12 are like, yo, Jesus, it's getting late. You should send the crowds to surrounding villages and farms to get something to eat and find shelter for the night. There's nothing to eat here in the middle of nowhere. Jesus responded, you have food to feed them. Now I can imagine they was like, Peter, you got some food? Peter's like, I ain't got no food. John, you got some food? John like, I ain't got no food. Hey, Matthew, you got some food? Matthew like, no, I ain't got no food. They was like, where this food coming from that Jesus is talking about? He was talking about the bread of life. Remember, Jesus, it was in another chapter we talked about a couple nights ago where Jesus was like, I have food you know not of. And it was when he had been tempted in chapter 2 or 3 where he was taken into the wilderness and tempted by the devil to turn the stone into bread. And he's like, yeah, I have the bread of life. I have food you don't know about. So that's what Jesus is really talking about there. Is he's saying you've got the food. All they need is this bread of life that you can give them. But he also knew that there was a little tiny bit of food there. There was some little bit of loaves and some little bit of fishes, and he knew what he was about to do with it. So either way, they're like, there's a lot of people here, and Jesus is saying we got food, and all we got is this. So y'all check out what's about to happen. All right, check out what's about to happen. They replied, all we have are these 5 small loaves of bread and 2 dried fish. Do you really expect us to go buy food for all these people? There are nearly 5,000 men here with women and children besides. So that means there was probably like 10,000 plus, because you got 5,000 men, then you got women and children. Now, not every man probably had a wife, and not every wife had a kid, but you balance it out, probably minimum you're looking at 10,000 people, probably more than that. So that's a lot of people. First of all, he had been praying for them. We talked about that a minute ago, how long it could take for just to pray for 300 or 400, but he's prayed for thousands, and they've been there all day. They're tired. The disciples are saying, like, send them away. And now he's saying, why send them away? Just feed them. And they're like, with what? And he's like, with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. And they're like, there's 10,000 people here, Jesus. What are you talking about? The 5 loaves and 2 fishes. How are we going to feed them all? Check it out. He told his disciples, have them all sit down in groups of 50 each. 5 loaves and 2 fishes still ain't going to feed 50 people. After everyone was seated, Jesus took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and gazing into the heavenly realm, he gave thanks for the food. Then, in the presence of his disciples, he broke off pieces of bread and fish and kept giving more to each disciple to give to the crowd. It was multiplying before their eyes. I imagine that was a scene. It's like, but really, they should have known this was possible because they've heard the stories, right? I mean, first of all, they've already seen all the miracles he's done, but they've also heard the stories from the prophets where they knew that the widow had fed, I think it was Elijah, and her oil and her cornmeal or whatever it was never ran out. And she only had enough to bake 1 more loaf for her and her son before she died. So they've heard this story. And then, because she chose to make the bread and give it to Elijah rather than her and her son eating it and dying, the Bible says that it never ran dry, that they had enough food and bread to sustain all 3 of them for the remainder part of the famine until it was over. And so they've heard this story. They've read about it in the books of the prophets and stuff. They probably heard the stories passed down from their family lineage in the synagogues and stuff like that. So they got the Messiah here. They obviously believe he's the Messiah because they're following him. They've abandoned their lives and their careers. Didn't really call them careers back then, but they abandoned everything that they were, the life that they were living, so that they could follow Jesus and learn from him. So they knew who he was. So they should have known, is all I'm saying. They should have known. They should have known. Let's see. Yep, you're right, Corey. God will give you everything you need if you have the faith and walk alone with him. You have little faith. They're totally walking the faith that all they need in life is, thank you, Lord. Yep, you got it, cuz. All right, let's go back over here. So everyone ate until they were filled, and afterward the disciples gathered up the leftovers. It came to exactly 12 basketfuls. There's that number 12 again. It shows up a lot, don't it? Y'all, I see 12, 12 a lot. I do. And I always say 12, 12. I see that. All right. Jesus prophesies his death and resurrection. One time. Let me start over. I got tongue tied. One time, Jesus was praying in a quiet place with his disciples nearby. He went to them and asked, "Who do people think I am?" They answered, "Some are convinced you're the prophet John who has returned. Others say you are Elijah, or perhaps one of the Jewish prophets brought back from the dead." Ooh. Jesus asked them, "But who do you believe that I am?" Peter said, "You are the anointed one, God's Messiah." Jesus gave them strict orders not to tell this to anyone yet, saying the Son of Man is destined to experience great suffering and face complete rejection by the Jewish leaders and religious hierarchy. He will be killed and raised back to life on the third day. Now, we've had a couple conversations about this in other chapters. I thought there was a cat under my feet. I don't know what that was. I don't see him though. All right. So Jesus gave them strict orders not to tell anyone who he was, even though Peter had just said, "You're the Messiah, you're the promised one, you're the anointed one." And we've seen where he would heal people, he would do miracles, and he would tell them, "Go do this, but don't tell anyone." And of course, they would tell everybody they ran into because they were excited, they were healed, and they wanted to share their testimony. If more of us might do that, then more people might know. Anyway, that's another topic for another day. But here, Jesus is making clear that the reason is because the faster news about who he actually is spreads, he knew that that was going to make those religious leaders big mad. And he already knew that they were going to kill him, and that was his ultimate destiny. And that was, going to be the fulfillment of the reason he was sent to earth. But it wasn't time for that yet. Remember how we went over on one of these nights, we went over and talked about in Daniel, how it pointed out that there was a specific time, like down to the year and stuff like that, that when the Messiah, the anointed one, was to be killed. So it's a timing thing. Like, we can't make them big mad too quick because there's still more work to be done before that can happen. All right. All right. Here we go. What it means to follow Jesus. Jesus said to all his followers, "If you truly desire to be my disciple, you must disown your life completely, embrace my cross as your own, and surrender to my ways. For if you choose self-sacrifice, giving up your lives for my glory, you will discover true life. But if you choose to keep your lives for yourselves, you will lose what you try to keep." Even if you gained all the wealth and power of this world and all the things it could offer you, yet lost your soul in the process, what good is that? So why then are you ashamed of being my disciple? Are you ashamed of the revelation truth I give you? I, the Son of Man, will one day return in my radiant brightness with the holy angels and in the splendor and majesty of my Father. On that day, I will be ashamed of everyone who has been ashamed of me. I promise you this, there are some of you standing here right now who will not die until you have witnessed the presence and the power of God's kingdom realm. So Jesus is basically just laid out that to follow him is to say it's no longer like I think Paul, the apostle Paul said, it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives through me. And that makes me think back to chapter 2 or 3 when Jesus was baptized by John, and God said, "Through him I am fulfilled." Well, it's through the people that Jesus discipled, and even through us and generations and generations beyond that time period, that Christ continues to live and to be made known to people through our lives. So he's basically saying to the apostles, if you're going to follow me, if you're going to be responsible for helping me spread this news of the kingdom of God, then your life and everything you think it should be and is has to be put to the side so that you can fully pursue the purpose that you're here for, and that is to advance the kingdom of God. That's it in a nutshell. We're here to advance the kingdom. And so Jesus is saying, in order to do that, your life and what you've been doing over there, if it's not advancing the kingdom, then it's time to lay it down so that you can do this with me. And that's what it means to follow Christ. That's what it means to be a follower of Christ. All right, so back to it. Let's get back to it. Oh, and when up here, he's saying there are some of you standing here right now who will not die until you have witnessed the presence and the power of God's kingdom realm. That's about to happen. That's about to happen. And we're going to see it right here. 8 days later, okay, so 8 days after he said that to them, Jesus took Peter, Jacob, and John, that's James, Jacob is James, Peter, Jacob, and John, and climbed a high mountain to pray. As he prayed, his face began to glow until a blinding glory streamed from him. That had to be something to see, wasn't it? A radiant glory illuminated his entire body. His brightness became so intense that it made his clothing blinding white as multiple flashes of lightning. Y'all, that had to be crazy to see, right? That had to be like, whoa. Like they're used to seeing Jesus and he's doing these miracles and all this kind of stuff is always going on around him. But they're up there and they're on a mountain and they're like basically half asleep, and then all of a sudden bright light, right? Whoa. And Jesus, they see him standing there, and coming from his body through his clothing is this bright light, and it's like flashing like lightning. So it's like he's got like the best thing I can express it with what I visualize is like he's got like strobe lights going off under his clothes, right? Because his body is being infused with the glory of God. And remember back up here, when he said this, let me put it big screen again. When he said this to them, this is what he was talking about. When he said, you will not die until you have witnessed the presence and the power of God's kingdom realm. So that literally happened 8 days later as they go up to this mountain to pray, and they get to witness this transformation and this transfiguration is what it's called moment where Jesus's body is fully infused with the glory of the kingdom, with the glory of God. Um, all right. All at once, two men appeared in glorious splendor, Moses and Elijah. Moses and Elijah are dead. Moses had been gone for a real long time, and he is the originator of the law. And Elijah was the most one of the most prominent prophets in the history of Israel at that time. So Jesus is standing here with the representation of the law and with the representation of the prophets. Okay, let's check out what's about to happen. They spoke with Jesus about his soon departure from this world and the things the Father destined him to accomplish in Jerusalem. They spoke with Jesus about his soon departure from this world and the things the Father destined him to accomplish in Jerusalem. So they came here to talk to him. He was infused and transfigured or trans whatever in that moment on the mountain, and the representation of the law and the prophets, which Jesus said multiple times he came to fulfill the law and the prophets, not to abolish the law, but to fulfill. So Jesus came with the purpose of fulfilling the law, and he is the ultimate prophet and the law of the prophets. So you got Moses representing the law, you got Elijah representing the prophets, and Jesus is talking with them about his final days, and they're giving him instruction about what God's destined or planned to happen to him. And so he already knew this, but now he's getting explicit instruction, and that bright light that is infusing into his body, that's giving him the power to carry it out. Okay? Because a human person, a natural human person would not be able to withstand what Jesus is about to have to walk through. So he had to be supernaturally gifted to walk through what he was about to have to walk through for the sake of the whole world. All right, let's keep going. Peter and his companions had become very drowsy, but they became fully awake when they saw the glory and splendor of Jesus standing there and the two men with him. As Moses and Elijah were about to return to heaven, Peter impetuously, I don't even know what that is. I'll look that up later. Peter blurted out, "Master, this is amazing to see the three of you together. Why don't we stay here and set up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah?" Now, y'all know Peter, he was a little bit excited. He was like, "Oh my God." It was, "Oh my God." I think about Buddy the Elf when he on the movie Elf, just because it's Christmas time and that doggone movie plays every single day now. Um, when he sees Santa, he's like, "It's Santa." I kind of envision Peter being that way in this particular story, where he's like, "Oh my God, it's Moses and Elijah." That he's like so excited that he wants to build them a tent. He wants to build a shelter so they can all hang out there and camp out and have a good time, sit around the campfire, roast marshmallows, and talk about good old times, right? So Peter's like, "Hey, let us stay. Let's stay. Let's hang out. Let's stay in this moment." So it had to be a very impactful and exciting moment for them, not only to see and experience it, but to also know that Moses and Elijah are here talking to Jesus. While Peter was still speaking, a radiant cloud of glory formed above them and overshadowed them. As the glory cloud enveloped them, they were struck with fear. Then the voice of God thundered from within the cloud, "This is my son, my beloved one. Listen carefully to all he has to say." So Peter done went from being super excited, wanting to build 3 shelters so they could all hang out, to, it says here, they were struck with fear, because now God, this glory cloud has come in, moved in to overshadow them. and the voice of God is talking to them from heaven. I can imagine it was a holy fear, like, they're like, because man coming into the presence of God, essentially, that creates what's called a holy fear. It's not like the same kind of fear that we think about, like, when you're watching a scary movie or something. That's a different kind of fear. But they were struck with fear, and God's telling them, listen to all, this is my son, listen to all he has to say carefully. When the thunderous voice faded away and the cloud disappeared, Jesus was standing there alone. Peter, Jacob or James, and John were awestruck, but they didn't say a word to anyone about what they had seen. It's good that they didn't say anything because they wasn't supposed to, but y'all, they was probably like, we can't tell nobody about this. That thing, we was crazy. They probably thought that. How y'all hanging in there? Give me some love in the comments. Share your thoughts. Share your thoughts. Y'all having a good time tonight? We a little more than halfway there. This is another long chapter. It's got like 60 something verses. We on 37. So y'all hang with me. We gonna get there though. I'll try to stop interrupting so much. Here we go. Back to it. The next day, a massive crowd was waiting at the foot of the mountain to meet them. A man in the crowd shouted desperately, "Please, teacher, I beg of you, do something about my son, my only son." An evil spirit possesses him and makes him scream out in torment, and hardly ever leaves him alone. It throws him into convulsions, and he foams at the mouth. When it finally does leave him, he's left with horrible bruises. I begged your disciples to drive it out of him, but they didn't have enough power to do it. Whoa. So this is a pretty serious situation, and this guy's desperate. He's begging Jesus for help, and he's already tried the disciples, and he couldn't do it. Thank you for that, Aunt Barb. Thank you for the check-in. I appreciate it. Y'all don't talk to me. Sometimes I wonder, can they hear me? Am I still live? I don't know. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so Jesus responded, "You are an unbelieving people with no faith. You twist your lives with lies and that have turned you away from doing the right things. How much longer should I remain here offering you hope?" Then he said to the man, "Bring your son to me." As the boy approached, the demon slammed him to the ground and threw him into violent convulsions. Jesus sternly commanded the demon to come out of the boy, and it left immediately. Jesus healed the boy of his injuries and returned him to his father, saying, "Here is your son." Y'all know what I like right there? I like that not only did Jesus deliver the boy and set him free from the demons that had been tormenting him, but he also healed him. He restored him and put him back into a pre-demon state. Like, one of the things that his dad had when he came to Jesus and was asking for help said was that this demon throws him around and leaves him all bruised and banged up. So not only did Jesus set him free, he healed the injuries that this demon had inflicted on his body by throwing him around and causing him to do things that he wouldn't normally do. So I think that's kind of neat. He kind of just he restores completely. He restores fully. He doesn't give anything. Jesus doesn't just heal and leave a person to get fixed on their own and to just let time heal all the wounds. No, when Jesus steps in and brings freedom, he also brings complete wholeness and complete restoration with him. I love that. Come on, somebody. Give me an amen. All right. Everyone was awestruck and stunned to see such power and the majesty of God flow through Jesus. Everyone marveled, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Jesus then turned to his disciples and said, "Listen carefully and let these words sink into your hearts. The Son of Man is about to be betrayed and surrendered to the authority of men." But the disciples could not grasp the meaning of what he was saying. for it was a veiled mystery to them, and they were too embarrassed to ask him to explain. The disciples began to argue and became preoccupied over who would be the greatest among them. Fully aware of their innermost thoughts, because Jesus, he be knowing what they be thinking. You know he does. Fully aware of their innermost thoughts, Jesus called a little child to his side and said to them, "If you tenderly care for this little child on my behalf, you are tenderly caring for me. And if you care for me, you are honoring my Father who sent me. The one who is least important in your eyes is actually the most important one of all." They was getting a little too proud, and they was starting to compete, and they all wanted to be number one and Jesus is bestie. And he's saying, look, the one you think about the least, that's the one that's the most important. And he used a child as an example because in those times, and even in some cultures today, in some families today, children are seen and not heard, right? But children are highly valuable. They're our future. They're our future generation, right? So Jesus is basically saying the one that you think the least of, that you don't even like consider, that's the one that's the most important in my kingdom. So he's basically putting them in their place and saying, ain't none of y'all the greatest. So get over yourselves. Let this be a lesson for us not to walk in pride and think, we're the greatest there is. No, no, boo. No, you're not. And that's what he's saying. No, boo. No, you're not. The disciple John said, "Master, we found someone casting out demons using your name, and we tried to stop him because he doesn't follow you as we do." Jesus responded, "You shouldn't have hindered him, for anyone who is not against you is your friend." Jesus let nothing distract him from departing from Jerusalem, because the time for him to be lifted up drew near, and he was full of passion to complete his mission there. So he sent messengers ahead of him as envoys to a village of the Samaritans. But as they approached the village, the people turned them away. They would not allow Jesus to enter, for he was on his way to worship in Jerusalem. Now, this sounds a bit odd, but to frame it, the Samaritans and the Jews were like enemies, and they knew that Jesus was a Jewish teacher and that he was on his way to Jerusalem to worship. The Samaritans had their own place of worship, and so they didn't really like to welcome Jewish people into their areas. So when they saw Jesus and probably his entourage coming along with him, they were kind of shooing him away. And so that's kind of the reason why they weren't welcoming of him in that area. If they had really known who he was and what he could do for them, they might have had a different way of thinking about that. When the disciples, Jacob, James, and John realized what was happening, they returned to Jesus and said, "Lord, if you wanted to, you could command fire to fall down from heaven just as Elijah did and destroy all these wicked people." Jesus rebuked them sharply, saying, "Don't you realize what spews from your heart when you say that? The Son of Man did not come to destroy life, but to bring life to earth." So here they come. They not acting in love. There's our friend Buddy. He decided to make his nightly cameo appearance. Come on. Watch your paws. Don't kick the mic. All right, hold on. I got people on here and they're seeing your butt come up in the computer screen. You can't wait an hour, huh? You gotta have love. You just gotta have love. All right. Now that we got the cat situated, let's continue. So they're coming back and they've got this hatred coming out of their heart, basically. So here they are traveling with the Messiah who, God is love, who is conveying and fully representative of love and all love is. And they're coming back around and they are like not walking in love, are they? They're like, destroy them, kill them all, Jesus. And he's like, what are you guys even talking about right now? Do you realize what you're saying? I didn't come to destroy people and to kill things. I came to bring life. And so he's like, don't you guys get it yet? They was trifling. All right, here we go. So they went to another village instead. The cost to follow Jesus. On their way, someone came up to Jesus and said, I want to follow you wherever you go. And Jesus was like, do you now? Let's see if you really mean that. Jesus replied, yes, but remember this, even animals in the field have holes in the ground to sleep in, and birds have their nest, but the Son of Man has no place to lay down his head. Jesus turned then to another and said, come, be my disciple. He replied, someday I will, Lord, but allow me first to fulfill my duty as a good son and wait until my father passes away. Jesus told him, don't wait for your father's burial. Let those who are already dead wait for death. As for you, go and proclaim everywhere that God's kingdom has arrived. Still another said to him, Lord, I want to follow you too, but first, let me go home and say goodbye to my family. Jesus responded, why do you keep looking back to your past and have second thoughts about following me? If you turn back, you are not fit for God's kingdom. All right. That is Luke chapter 9. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You like that, buddy? Yeah, you look like you do. So Jesus is when people are wanting to follow him, he's really calling them out, and what he's doing here is showing them what's really important, the most important thing in their lives. If the most important thing is in your life you put ahead of following the Lord, then you can't be a follower. You can't be a follower. So he has to be the most important. And he's not saying don't take care of your family, don't take care of your parents. That's not what he's saying here. He was saying you can't put those things ahead of following me. Following me has to be first. Because, Jesus came to fulfill the law, not abolish the law. And the law says, honor your father and mother, right? So that you may be blessed with long life. And so Jesus is not giving instruction that violates the law. He's just pointing out that he has to be first. And so that would be my prayer tonight for all of us, is that through this Christmas season and through the holidays, and then every day beyond that into the new year and for the rest of our lives, that first seat in our life is the Lord, and that our purpose is to fulfill the plan that God has for us in our individual lives to bring his kingdom into the earth, because that's ultimately what Jesus came to do, was to bring the kingdom to earth. And as followers of Christ, that's what we're to do too, to make him known and to bring God's kingdom realm into the earth. So that's my prayer for tonight, and I hope that that's your prayer as well. But that's going to conclude Luke chapter 9, and guess what's next? Luke 10. Luke 10. So we'll be back tomorrow for Luke 10. If you guys have any comments you want to drop, go ahead and drop them now. Let's see. Corey be writing these long messages. Provided I walk in the face and I proclaim that to everyone, that I need all things are good. No work will get anywhere, but it's part of what we're supposed to do. All right. You got some good thoughts coming out there, Corey. I'm glad to see you posting those. Thank you, Aunt Barb. I appreciate that. Beautiful. Isn't this a beautiful boy? Look at this boy. He's not look at his face, y'all. He's like, Mom, I'm not terribly excited about this position you're holding me in. Do you like it, boy? Do you like say hello? Say hello. Oh, oh, okay. Y'all, he's 26 pounds. That's why I be grunting when I'm picking him up. Look how big this cat is. That's not a cat. That's somebody told me one time he belongs in a zoo. I was on a Zoom call and they were like, that cat belongs. He did this. He jumped up just like this. And he was like, they were like, that cat belongs in a zoo. I'm like, sometimes living with me feels like a zoo. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good night. Hey, Ronnie Kate says hello, buddy. He says, hey, Ronnie Kate. He tried to escape the other night, y'all. But I've learned, this is what I've learned. When he makes a run for it and he goes out the front door, see, I used to chase him and I'll be like, buddy, get back in here. Now I don't chase him. I just slowly walk out and I'm like, buddy, come here, baby. Let's go back inside. Come on. He went all the way down the street to the neighbor's house, crawled under their car. And I just stood there and waited for him. Took about 5 minutes. And I just kept talking sweet. And then he came out, sauntering out, and because he thought he was going to get some loves. And as soon as he got close enough, I bent down and I grabbed him by the nape of the neck, and I was like, boy, come on. No, I didn't. I wasn't like that. But I did grab him quick before he ran. And we got him back in the house. But I don't know what it is about the cold weather, but he always tries to make a run for it in the cold weather. And so I think I've learned the secret, though. Just talk sweet and make him think he's going to get some love, and he'll come right back in. I'm talking about you. I know. Yeah, I know. All right, guys. Well, obviously, my cat needs attention. Yeah, he is a runner. He says he's a free spirit. He can't be contained. He has to be he has to be, he's a rambling man. One time when he was gone for like 4 days, I had my neighbors looking for him and everything. We had a joke in the neighborhood that his theme song was Rambling Man or Born to Be Wild. Hey, stop biting me. So, yeah. Anyway, enough about the cat. All right, time to go. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending time with me tonight, especially during this busy holiday season. So I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your weekend and rest of your evening. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a little family thing tomorrow afternoon. My nephew's birthday party, but I think we'll be good for 8 o'clock. If not, I'll make a post and let you know what the ETA will be. But I'm gonna plan for 8 o'clock tomorrow, okay? And we'll see you right back here. And as always, this and all of these broadcasts for this special Christmas edition are dedicated to the memory of my parents, the beautiful Joanna and the handsome Sonny Abbott, who are celebrating this Christmas in heaven with Jesus. And I love them. They love me. They love you. Everybody loves everybody. And y'all have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you back tomorrow.